Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thank you to Water Cleanup of Florida. This is to all of our South Florida property owners who may have an insurance claim. You may not yet, but you have water damage, fire, mold. First of all, you want to find out what's wrong. And then instead of having to go to a million places, who has time for that? You want to get it done with a one-stop shop, A to Z. I have that place for you. Water Cleanup of Florida is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with over 60 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, and their team, prepared to handle any size disaster. If you have an issue, give them a call anytime, 954-579-0356. Water Cleanup of Florida. With Water Cleanup of Florida having licensed general contractors, they are able to not only diagnose any issue, but take care of it and fix it themselves. Check them out on their website at wcufl.com. Again, give them a call anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 954-579-0356. Just mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, 5 Reasons or Lubie, and receive a free inspection during business hours. You can also follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. Talking about schmutz, the NBA playing games have been very interesting in the sense that there's, of course, a wide debate, because what else in life these days goes without a debate? I, Defo, as well, have sort of been on the idea that, hey, why not have the playing games? It adds more action. We also talked with Howard Beck, longtime NBA writer, NBA reporter, analyst with Sports Illustrated, the LA Times, New York Times, Bleacher Report, NBA TV, TNT. And his point was, ever since the playing games, you've seen tanking go down a lot. You've heard talk of tanking go down, and he's right. The fact that now 20 teams have a shot at getting into the quote-unquote playoffs or postseason, all the teams, for the most part, are trying to go for it, which is the best thing. Like, who wants tanking? So we've been talking a lot about the playing games lately. We've been talking about the Miami Heat and who their opponent is. We talked with Mike Mayo as well today. We talked about it ourselves, and we talked about it with Mike Mayo. What could be the detriment of the playing games? Mike Mayo has his own opinion. We also talked about the Miami Marlins, who had their home opener last night in victorious fashion to a rousing crowd. Plus, those Florida Panthers, we talked about it. Also, Mike Mayo jumped in, Mr. Negativity, about those East-leading Florida Panthers right here, the Defo Show with the Lubie, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
I did want to give Mayo a little bit of a vote of confidence here, because one of my favorite columnists is, you talk about irascible, it's Phil Mushnick in the New York Post, the great Phil Mushnick. For those that are only on audio, I'm holding up a copy of his latest column here, which is usually the first thing I gravitate towards if he's got a column in a paper, because it usually concerns itself with media issues and things like that, which I'm naturally interested in. So here's one of his little tidbits in the column, the tidbits part that he has on the right side of the column. It says, this NBA play-in reeks of another made-for-TV money gimmick, like MLB adding playoff teams.
But, okay, first of all,
so there you go. There's affirmation from Mayo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not everybody, takes our side of the issue. I just think it's been fun. I'm looking forward to watching these games tonight. His complaint, Mike Mayo, I guess it has a small amount of legitimacy in that, the Heat as the number 1 seed and the Suns, consequently also in the West as the number 1 seed, as of now, don't know who they're playing in the first round. But I don't believe it takes all that much time for a team in your conference, for a coaching staff to prepare for a team that's in your conference. I mean, there are only 5 guys on the floor. This isn't the NFL where, the guys are sleeping at the facility there trying to figure out how the hell are we going to stop so-and-so. There are not a lot of wild blocking schemes. And you realize this, Lubie, you coach basketball. How many plays are there really in basketball? Like 2 or 3 plays.
I mean, they have a lot more, but they probably really bear down to like 3 things. They're all probably based off of 3 things. They made
there's only so much you can do. I mean, there's the pick and roll. I mean, you can screen away from the ball and involve a third guy. They run a little weave at the top of the key. That's still in vogue. I mean, maybe you get a second interior pass that you could work on a little bit. But when I see the way the game is executed, I mean, does it really look like they have to practice this over and over again, right? Where a guy penetrates into the paint, 3 guys collapse on him, and he whips the ball into the corner to a wide open guy and chucks up another of 62 threes that are taken in the game. What kind of preparation do you need? You pretty much know who the characters are. It's not like somebody's coming out of the woodwork, right? Like Raheem Mostert did, where all of a sudden he gains 200 yards, even though he was an effective player all year. But in the championship game, whoa, we didn't know about this guy.
I mean, you can do math. You figured
no surprises.
You figure the Nets were going to win. You weren't going to play the Nets, so you can figure it's going to be Cavs and Hawks because the Hornets aren't ready. And the reality is, the Hawks were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and the Cavs are missing 2 of their top 3 to 4 players. So you can start preparing for the Hawks with the idea maybe there's an upset. So I don't agree with Mayo there. The professor said something interesting, and he's like, look, the reality is these playing games usually suck. And if you actually looked at the games themselves, outside of the T-Wolves game, the other games have not been good. They've all been blowouts. So he's not wrong in that regard. It's just for us, this week would have sucked without having something to talk about. So that's why I don't mind them, because it gives you fodder this week. Like, they wouldn't have started the playoffs until Friday. They wouldn't have started on a Tuesday. So we would have had nothing to talk about except for baseball. And right now, baseball's sort of boring at the beginning. So I didn't mind having the idea of playing games and the Nets and the this and that fodder. But, I mean, the games themselves
But I think the purpose of it was different. I mean, obviously, from the NBA standpoint, Lubie, they were looking to make more money and satisfy their television partners
100%.
that they added in postseason games. All right. And look, that's part of the business of sports. And the other side of that business of sports is, for the most part, we're getting a massive amount of free entertainment that was never available at this level at any time historically. I mean, having grown up listening to most of the games on the radio, if you wanted to stay in touch with your team, and maybe getting 1 game a week, that was a real luxury. All games weren't televised then, and you certainly couldn't be in touch with teams from all around the league and all around the country. You never saw out-of-town games except in baseball on the game of the week on Saturday, which, I mean, what kind of a revelation was that for the local fans? Wow, can you believe it? Red Sox Cleveland today. And as a big fan, you couldn't wait to watch that, and you were very happy it was being offered up. But now, you can flip channels and find 17 different games in each sport every night, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, yeah.
And that's a luxury. So, you know what? If this is how they have to do it, if they bastardize a couple of things, for television purposes, for the amount of free entertainment that's being generated for the fans, I'll take the trade-off. Would you not? I mean, that's fine with me. What I liked about it, though, and I think it was also designed, to obviously create a little more intrigue in cities that normally would have been out of it. But, I'm a big believer in protecting the integrity of the regular season and having the regular season have meaning. And it did have meaning in a lot of different directions, right down to the final game of the season, including the Boston Celtics opting to go out and win at the end of the season instead of trying to drop down and get cute, which is another one of our adages here on Degenerate Friday that I think people should abide by, and that is don't get cute, right? You're hammering forehands into the corner, and the guy's having trouble getting them back. I mean, don't attempt a drop shot in the middle of all of that when you haven't hit one all night, right? I mean, it might work. You're seeing it used more in professional tennis. I mean, way more than ever before. But, just don't go away from what's working for you is the essential theory behind that. And a lot of times when you get cute, look what happened. I mean, the greatest example, I guess, that I can think of was when the Indianapolis Colts tanked the game against the Jets so that they could dodge a situation, and then they ended up losing to the Jets in the postseason and getting knocked out in an early round when they had a dynamite team that looked like it was primed to win a championship.
Yep.
And it added to the legacy of Rex Ryan, probably kept Rex in football for another 10 years, right?
Honestly.
And now, what do you think of Rex as a commentator, by the way? Are you a Rex Ryan fan,
I think he's okay.
Or you just don't like him because he was with the Jets?
I respect him more than I respect Tannenbaum. Like, Rex Ryan says the truth, and I believe him. Tannenbaum says, they shouldn't. Tua's not good. It's like, dude, you extended Mark Sanchez and Ryan Tannehill. Please don't tell me about what they should or shouldn't do with Tua. Go away, Mike Tannenbaum.
Gave a ton of money to Mike Wallace, the wide receiver.
Yes. He's
also
he's the one that brought in Sue, and I didn't mind the Sue move. I actually liked the Sue move, but they didn't do anything around Sue. They brought in Sue, but then ran a defense.
Tackle wasn't going to turn the team around. Yeah.
Well, they just didn't do anything else that would have made Sue worthwhile. So then you shouldn't have gotten Sue if you were going to do nothing with it. Like, Tannenbaum, don't tell me what you're going to do. Look, we all saying what I would do. mythically, to me, matters more than someone who's actually had the shot twice and blundered both away. Like, just shut up. Ryan isn't bad, but to go back to the playing games, my thing is Howard Beck did something interesting, and you talk about protecting, the value of everything. We've tried to figure out how to not tank. When in the last 2 years have you heard the term tank? The Kings are bad, but they're not tanking. The Kings try to draft good or draft well, and they just suck at drafting. Like, they always get the guy.
They're cursed. 6
guys are drafted in the top 10 that are good. The Kings always get one of the 4 that suck every time. It's just bad luck, but they're not trying to tank. Like, when was the last we heard the term tank every year except for the last 2 years? Now, maybe the draft wasn't good. I don't know. But we haven't heard the term tank since the playing games were instituted. Whether it was on purpose or not, it's worked to make teams try until the end. And that's what you were looking for, and it's made everything better. Like, whether the games suck or not, it doesn't matter. Teams are trying to get in to one of the top 20 spots. Cool. Like, that should be the point. Look what's on the line
tonight. I mean, you're either in or you're out. I mean, so that first round of games, you did have 7 versus 8, and nobody wanted to be the 8 and lose that game, because now you have to drop into a do-or-die situation at least.
Yep.
The Nets going against the Celtics guaranteed themselves a best-of-7 series where, if they blow a game or they're having an off night on the first night or even a second night of the series, they still have a shot. They're in there with a chance. This is, one and done, do or die. So, you have a lot at stake tonight. Atlanta's favorite, by the way, I believe 3 and a hook on the road against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Clippers are slight favorites over the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans Pelicans. And Pelicans are a little bit dangerous now, right?
Yeah,
with McCollum and Ingram.
Yep.
I mean, they have two really good players on that team that can score and light it up. I may not have the balance. And did you see there was a Zion sighting?
Yes, he did a 360 dunk, but he still hasn't lost any weight.
No, he looked like Wayne Embry out there.
Bigger.
I mean,
I think Oliver Miller. It's like, and I defended him because I thought he would eventually lose weight, because we all heard how much of a hard worker he was. All he's done is gain weight. Like, I mean, at some point, like, that's, if it's not, it's already an issue now. I don't know. I don't understand how they don't have him like with LeBron or with someone that's going to make him bust his ass to get in shape, because that's honestly his only issue, is staying in shape, when everyone else from his class has done pretty well. He's been a total disaster because he can't stay healthy because he's massively overweight.
Yes, I mean, and that looms as one of those 1 versus 2 draft picks where the top guy in this case turned out to be all bustology or close to it. I don't know that you could deem the guy a bust because he demonstrated his ability, but nonetheless, in terms of overall contribution, franchise-changing, transformative type of player that you should be getting with the number 1 overall pick, do you not have more of a shot of actually having that with John Morant?
Oh, my God. What are you talking about?
Than you do. I mean, even R.J. Barrett, who was picked, number 3 that year?
Yeah, he's at least playing.
Well, I mean, it shows a lot more potential at this stage than Zion Williamson has. And now Zion kind of has to go back to, you would have to think, stage 1 of establishing what his value might be as an NBA player, if he ever even gets back to that. But he did. I mean, it was good that he could dunk. I mean, a 300-pound guy dunking, is... especially at 6'4", is kind of unusual. It's great to see. But, no, great interest in these games tonight. So I don't care that they might have bastardized themselves by selling out to money and TV revenues and trying to satisfy their television partners. They're also offering more games for gamblers. Let's put it that way. And that's, kind of, the thing that we look for here on a deal or on a Degenerate Friday. Mention our friends at Deal Volkswagen. I couldn't help it because I was enthralled last night. This was wild, Lubie. Maybe we misgauged this, or do they go back to having 4,000 people in the stands tonight for the second game of the season?
The second game, no, but this will be the series where, wow, look at the series. And then every other series, unless they win a lot. Like, the Marlins aren't the Panthers. The Marlins have won enough where if they win sometime from now until like August, September, they'll get fans. The Panthers' problem is they've never won. Like, at least the Marlins have 2 World Series, and people like me grew up remembering both of them. So people want to support the Marlins. They're just pissed at them. So if they show that they can win during the year, people will come. Problem is they have to do that, and they haven't done that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about South Florida, where we originate the program from here on Ion Channel, the Defo Show, and we're broadcasting out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so when we're talking about these local teams a lot, and much of our audience obviously is based here in Florida. Yeah. The people that carried over from our 11 years together on the radio that followed us here to Ion Channel and the various audio and video streaming outlets that we're on and platforms we're on right now, you would have to think that they realize that this is the city of indifference. And yet last night, I mean, I have to applaud the South Florida sports fan for turning out for this Marlins game last night against Philadelphia. They come off a 1-4 road trip. There is not a tremendous amount of excitement about the team. Their predicted win-loss total for the season in Vegas was somewhere around 75. So it's not like there are Dickens-like great expectations for this ball club. They don't really have star power to speak of. I mean, Sandy Alcantara is an excellent number one starter for the Marlins, and he pitched well in a ball game last night. But, I mean, is he sexy as a starter? It's not like you're throwing Tom Seaver out there in his prime. And they have some very talented young guys. I mean, Pablo Lopez is a very likable player, but he hasn't had one of those monster seasons where he goes like 21-6. And all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, this is a right-handed Ron Guidry or something, having a magical year. Nobody's really lit it up for the Marlins to the extent that you're saying, wow, I mean, I love watching this guy play. Miggy Rojas, who obviously is, just a very spirited player and a guy that, you could see being a catalyst in terms of leadership. Nonetheless, is a 260 hitting shortstop that isn't going to make anybody forget about Mark Belanger. Not that he's a butcher out there, because they did turn a really nice double play in the ninth inning last night. Jazz Chisholm, who's now known as Jazz Chisholm Jr., I guess. Who knew there was a senior Jazz Chisholm? But whatever. I mean, he's an exciting player, but is he enough to ignite some kind of movement among fans to go, wow, we have to go out to the ballpark tonight to see what Jazz Chisholm is going to do?
No.
Not really. So there's nobody that's so overwhelmingly popular or electrifying that, they're missing that element. So they're going to have to do it by being an exciting winning team, and they come off the road at 1-4. Now, I'm thinking they're going to have the house maybe papered a little bit to the tune of about three-quarters capacity.
Yeah.
Place only holds 37,000, so it shouldn't be all that hard to fill.
No.
I mean, holy Fenway Park, it's a relatively small park from the standpoint of overall crowds, and the ability to house. You're not seeing 50,000 there. They won't fit in the building, okay? Unless they're all like 20 deep at the Budweiser tower there, or whatever that is.
Yeah, the bar.
But this crowd, I mean, I haven't seen anything like this, and I'm watching it on TV. And I was there for the seventh game in a 97 World Series. It was every bit as good as that, if not more so. Nice. People stayed. This is a regular season game 6 in the regular season of 162.
Yep.
It was the Marlins home opener, but it's on a Thursday night where people are still working on Friday. And you thought, wow, they'd be. I thought they'd be lucky to draw 20,000 for this ball game. I really did. So the place, it wasn't a sellout, but it was close. I mean, there are people all over the place, way deep in the outfield, and they stayed for every second. I mean, they were there. The whole crowd was pretty much intact at the last out, which took place about 10:15 last night, and they were going nuts, absolutely crazy. They were loving every second of it. Now, does it drop off tonight? Because this was common when I was vending at Shea. You'd have a big crowd on opening day, and even at Shea Stadium in New York, where you're going to draw good crowds for the most part, no matter what the position of the team was in the standings. And at that time, in like the early 60s, mid-60s, it didn't really get good until about like 1968, where you thought, okay, maybe this team has a little bit of a shot. And, of course, they won it all in 69 with the Miracle Mets, and the stadium was packed virtually every day. But you'll see this a lot, and especially in eastern cities when the weather is not particularly good, where they draw 50,000 for opening day, and they list the attendance at 12,000 the next night. And that includes like season ticket holders that didn't show up. So you're looking at like 6,000 people in the house.
Yes.
If that happens tonight, it wouldn't be atypical. But, wow, what a refreshing thing. We did see some vintage Miggy, though. He's got an at-bat in the sixth inning. There's a guy on second, and He's at bat, and he hadn't had a hit, and he's only hitting like a buck right now. Got off to a slow start, although it's only a few games in, so very difficult to sit there and say, oh, my God, this guy's lost it. And he fouls off like about a half a dozen pitches. He looks like Eddie Yost up there. Used to get up there and foul off like 20 pitches and then draws a walk. So that was vintage Mickey. And he, of course, made a real strong pivot and throw on that double play in the ninth innings. And that's the kind of thing that doesn't show up in the box score necessarily, right?
No, not at
all. You see a guy was 1 for 4 with a walk, but you don't realize that the walk might have been his best at bat.
Well, it's like the bad call. Like, oh, it's one bad call. No. If it's a bad call that would have ended an inning, and then the next at bat is a 2-run home run that eventually wins the game, if you didn't watch that game, you would know that one pitch changed the entire game. That's
why the playoffs are great in Major League Baseball, because every pitch, carries that kind of weight. And as you all know, all of you degenerates out there, the minute you put $5 on a baseball game,
everything changes.
It's incredibly more interesting than it was if you were just sitting there going, what inning is this? Okay. You want to go? But a brilliant crowd there last night, and it was reminiscent of that 97 World Series Game 7.
Good.
And this adds truth to that whole MasterCard principle, because I still remember the options that were in front of me. I had part of a season ticket package. We lucked out. I believe the guy's name was Don Smiley, was like the CEO, president of the Marlins, and we had done him a favor. My friend Mike and I had done him a favor. It was mostly Mike. I kind of just drafted in behind there. I might have voiced over something for this guy. And we were in the lottery for tickets, and we draw without paying a premium, because they had the founder seats, and those were like the first 10 rows around between the bases and behind home plate. So in row 12, 2 rows behind the founder seats, which were always empty because nobody paid that premium, I have 2 tickets for a third of the games for that season with 2 other guys, Rosie Paymont, the hockey player, and my buddy Mike Fernandez. And we're right behind home plate, 12th row, which essentially was like the second row with nobody sitting in front of us. Unbelievable. And those were $14 a copy. And I believe they might have gone to $75 a copy for the World Series.
Wow.
It's possible. I mean, it was somewhere in range, like the face value was 75. So I had the 2 tickets for Game 7. My buddy thought that the Marlins were going to wrap it up against Cleveland in Game 6, and he wanted to go. And, he was more of the impetus behind getting the tickets. So I said, yeah, sure, you use those tickets. So he goes and watches a very boring 4-1 loss by the Marlins in Game 6. Very depressing, because now Cleveland is forced to Game 7, and you know what's going to happen. The upstart team, then Florida Marlins, they're going to get hosed at their home park, lose 2 games at home, and blow the series.
Yes, that's what I felt like. Yep.
Al Leiter's on the mound, and he was very suspect at that time. Now, Al Leiter had a really good career, but in 97, at the tail end of the season, I don't know. You would have almost preferred like Aníbal Sanchez.
It was literally you wanted Levon. You were so giddy to have Kevin Brown, and you were scared to death every time Al Leiter stepped on the mound. Like, you were scared out of your mind.
He didn't have good command of his stuff that year, and so he throws a first pitch breaking ball for a strike, and the crowd goes nuts. And we're like, all right, that's going to be great. But the options were to scalp the tickets. Now, my son in 97 was 14.
14, 15, yep.
So I'm telling this 14-year-old, I said, listen, Jesse, these tickets, I've got them, and, I paid $150 for them. We could probably sell them for like $1,500. And your choice is you can sell these outside the stadium. We can sell them for $1,500, and you can keep all the money, or we can go to the game. So I'm thinking any smart kid and a child of mine is going to take the money and run, right?
Yeah, who cares?
$1,500 by 97 standards. What are we, 25 years later now, Lubie?
It's like $10,000
So
right
we're
now.
talking about what? I mean, with inflation going up 10% every month, you have to calculate back and think $1,500, it was worth about maybe 4 dimes by today's standards, right?
Yeah.
That's a, generous consideration there. And he says, no, let's go to the game. And to tell you the truth, I mean, we would have blown through to $1,500 by now, certainly many, many times. But I will never forget being at that ball game. So is that overwhelmingly sentimental, Lubie, or is that just the truth that you can't put a price tag?
I remember.
I sound like Joel Osteen here. It's my Joel Osteen moment. Ready?
You do sound like those commercials.
God will tell you that you can't put a price tag on experience.
There you go.
There you go, my friend.
Wonderful.
I have affirmation for you here, Mike Mayo. When it comes, and you are, I just deemed you our own version of Phil Mushnick, who I admire greatly. I mean, it's one of those columns that the minute I get my New York Post,
he's a little bit moralizing, though. He always like I'm a man of
losing
no
it a little
morals.
bit, Phil.
Yeah, I'm amoral. No, I'm not amoral. I have I'm a very principled person, but I'm forgiving, and he just seems to be very.
He hangs on to this stuff, forever.
He seems like the church lady almost. He's like, that's just. Yeah, he just chides people for their moral indiscretions. So.
He agrees with you on this, though, and you brought this conversation up, and I immediately was like, "Well, what are you, crazy, Mayo? You're out of your mind." That I thought this was a good thing. And
wait, he says the Panthers are going to lose the first round too?
No, he didn't mention that. But he did say the NBA play-in reeks, Mike Mayo, of another made-for-TV money gimmick, like Major League Baseball adding playoff teams as well. And your argument, though, was of a different nature, because you were saying it was unfair to the Miami Heat to not know who their opponent was going to be.
My overall point is aligned with his. It's just a cheap money grab, greed, more games that'll generate a little bit of ratings in the middle of a week before the real show begins, give false hopes to more scrub teams that really are not going to have a shot, but they get one more chance. No, but the ancillary argument is, which you seem to poo-poo, and maybe it's not much, but how is it that with this play-in system now, the team that essentially gets penalized, the one that learns its opponent last, and it's at a little bit of a disadvantage, because, again, the Heat won't find out who they're playing in round one till about 10 o'clock tonight.
But they're going to get a beat-up chump when they finally find out. So that doesn't hurt them either.
But if you're the best team and you're supposed to get all these advantages from being the best team in the East,
not a good
how
advantage?
is it that you get saddled with a disadvantage as opposed to seeds?
Because you're playing a worse team, man. I mean,
fine, whatever. Okay, whatever.
Go ahead.
I mean, the Heat should be good enough to overcome that. And I know, like today, they're going to be spending the day.
It's Mushnick-esque. That really is on your part. I believe that. That's why we love you, Mike Mayo, because you need this kind of approach.
Was he chiding at Tiger Woods for surviving a car crash?
Oh yeah, no, sure. he hates. It's not that he doesn't like Woods. I mean, he's not a big fan of Woods, you can imagine, but he realizes what Tiger Woods is as a sporting figure and an influence. But and he's not wrong about this. I mean, my favorite Tiger Woods thing, literally, was you saw this shadowy, dark figure coming out of the back door of Tiger Woods' house in Orlando. They were on a golf course, I guess, that's adjacent to his house there that he resides on. And Tom Rinaldi, our good friend Tom Rinaldi, is interviewing Tiger. And you see this figure going out of the back there. And I have to assume, even the FBI probably could verify that it was Dr. Galea, a guy who is under indictment in 3 countries in North America. I mean, it's hard to have that kind of trifecta, right? Mexico wanted to see this guy. The States wanted him. Canada was looking for him. And there he is in full view of everybody. And you're asking yourself, it's kind of like, when Roger Clemens, was trying to deny the steroid use, and you're thinking, this guy could go to any doctor in the world. Why is he having the team's, assistant equipment manager juice him up? with a syringe? And why is Tiger Woods using this doctor who visited him 14 times? And Mushnick's point is everybody ignores all of this stuff with Woods, that he's so sanctimoniously viewed that, I mean, let's be obvious. He's not the greatest person that ever lived, even though he's maybe the greatest golfer.
Yeah. I mean, again, we don't mean to a lot of people, especially those on the golf beat who want to stay in the good graces of Tiger and his circle, aren't going to come out and say these things. And just the same way that the people that I guess in the cycling journalism world were, maybe winking and nodding, knowing all along that Lance Armstrong had to be doing something. And, there were whispers forever. But Tiger Woods, look, I mean, he's had a lot of physical problems throughout his career. He's had a lot of other, incidents and things that have set him back
physically. You think? Was it the juice?
Well, I don't know, but a lot of times, when you're on those kind of whatever supplements, it does kind of mask things, and then when you go off them, your body might break down. But in this case, we know exactly why his body broke down, because he ran off a ravine at 80 miles an hour.
This was
but
nasty.
But
yeah.
meanwhile, let's not. okay, it's great that he came back. It's good for golf. It's good for ratings. I don't know if he'll ever really be competitive again because, we saw he had the first round back. It's like everybody, you quit golf for a year and then you come back. That first round, everything goes beautifully and there's no problems. And then it's that second round where you just blow up because all the bad habits come back and the lack of practice. And that first round is just pure adrenaline and excitement. And I think we saw that this week, plus the physical rigors of a very hilly, steep course took its toll, and eventually he couldn't.
He looked like Buddy Edson trying to get up and down those hills, didn't he? I mean, like when he was at the end of his acting career.
Look, but I hope he's, he says he's going to play the U.S. Open. I hope that he gets stronger and fitter, and maybe he'll pull one more improbable win out of the bag.
This was once again another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Play-in games. Defo and I are for them. They're fun. They're exciting. Mike Mayo brings up an interesting point that they do not allow the number one seed to know who their opponent is. But the reality is you're going to get the worst team. You're now going to get a worse team that's played 2 extra games to get to you. You have an idea who the 1 or 2 teams are, like I said, and you can practice for those teams. You can prepare for those teams. Plus, you played all these teams a ton of times throughout the year. I don't mind having less prep for quote-unquote one team. If it means the team I'm going to get is going to have to play 2 extra games just to get to me, I'm going to have home court, and they will be the quote-unquote worst team in the conference in the playoffs. So Mayo brings up an interesting point. Defo and I totally disagree with it. I think the Miami Heat are raring to go. I think they earned that number 1 seed. I think they are probably the deepest team in all the NBA. And if you look at their starting 5 or their 5 best players, it's as good as any unit in the NBA. They're a ton of dudes that have done this all season long. They have a guy that right now is probably the best coach in the NBA. Popovich is one of the best coaches of all time. But what he is right now, he's not the same guy with that team. And Kerr's shown, if the Warriors have everyone healthy, he's a good coach. But when they have issues, he's not as good a coach. Suppose successful, whoever the heck's out there, however healthy they are. So you put that together, the Heat are ready to go. Plus, this group loves the idea of having a chip on their shoulder. They bitch, they moan, whatever, but they're embracing everyone, literally everyone nationally underplaying them. They have been said that if they had faced the Nets, they may lose. The Nets are a bigger favorite in parts of Vegas to come out of the East than them, even though the Nets are the 7th seed and had to play in the play-in games to get to that 7th seed. And he'd have been number 1 for 3 quarters of the season and clinched with 3 games left. Everyone's forgotten the Heat. I think the Heat have totally embraced that. And I'm hoping it doesn't matter who they play in the first round. The Hawks would not be the dream. I still think the Heat win in 5 or 6 games. It'd be a tougher series, but they'll get past it. I think they're ready to go. And I'm looking forward to the NBA playoffs tipping off this weekend. So we'll definitely talk a lot more about that Monday. Thank you to Mike Mayo, as always, for joining us. Defo, Lubie. This is the Defo Show with Lubie right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you Monday. Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.